Hello everyone, welcome back to Spinning Iris and happy Halloween. I figured this would be a good time to talk about this little book. This is Seven Spiders Spinning by Gregory Maguire. I picked this book up several months ago. Decided to wait on talking about it until the right time of year, as the final part of the story does occur around Halloween. Although what is funny is since I've read this book, I've had more encounters with spiders than I normally do. The usual spiders in the garden, like the one that decided to build its nest in between two garden boxes. Or the spiders that poked out to say hello when I was laying down mulch. Then there's the one that decided to move into a little shrubbery out in my rock garden. The daddy longlegs that likes to live in the bee balm in one of the grow boxes. And a lovely globular-bodied spider that decided to build her lovely web in front of my screen door. And then of course here in the house there's the one that took up residence in a little space between the door molding and the wall. Then there's the little one that likes to dangle from the fluorescent lights out in the other room. And the large spider that for some reason decides it wants to skitter across the floor when I least expect it. Now, if you hate spiders, you will probably hate this book. Or you might cheer this book. You'll probably hate this video, though. Hello. So, in proper Gregory Maguire fashion, this is based a little bit in reality. A little bit twisted reality. It's a lot of fun. The titular spiders of this book are prehistoric Siberian snow spiders. I think that they're supposed to be roughly the size of tarantulas. And it begins in a preface where they are born, and right before they are able to imprint on their mother, they are frozen in a block of ice. Then they remain in that frozen stasis until explorers decide to take that chunk of ice with them against the warnings of I guess I'll call her a shaman, named Hubda. And of course their ship sinks, and that little block of ice just kind of floats until it's discovered in the modern era and is on its way to be studied, I believe in Boston, if I'm remembering correctly. Naturally, on the way to their final destination, the ice melts, and they scare the ever-loving pants off of their truck driver, causing quite a remarkable crash. I don't remember reading anything quite like that in elementary school. Of course, the spiders survive, and they find their way to this little town in, I think it's Vermont. This, of course, is a book written for kids. I won't say it's written for every kid. It was written specifically for all of the kids listed here. The author's various nieces, nephews, and I guess godchildren. There's a cute little poem down here in the bottom, which I can sympathize. Spider, spider, in the night, dangling by the bathroom light. Why do you have to bother me, just when I want some privacy? I'm trying to remember how in the world I got this book. It may not have been me, it may have been one of my sisters who grabbed this one. And I didn't realize this was also part of a series. There are 6 other books, which I might have to find, if they're not out of print. Of course, the spiders find their way to their own new home, and when they open their eyes, they find seven girls, or 7 spiders, and they each imprint on their own girl. And it's not the Twilight imprinting. Get your mind out of the gutter. And the children in this book all belong to the same class. The boys are divided into one group, the girls divided into another, the copycats and the tattletales. And all the names of these kids are, they're super, super special. I only one of them sounds normal, and that's Salim Banerjee. All the others are either strange or very hoity-toity. They all belong in the same class. Their teacher is Miss Earth, and she's sort of everybody's favorite teacher. She's got her own interesting little quirks. Most of the characters in this book are delightful, normal. Except for the two nurses that appear in this book, and they are probably the most unprofessional nurses you will ever find. Yeah, they would both have lost their jobs in the real world, but in this little urban fantasy world, they're something else. Of course, after the spiders imprint on their girls, they steadily grow bigger and stronger, and the kids go to school. One lonely girl who doesn't belong to either of the two groups happens upon one and lures one away with lunch meat and shows it off in class for show and tell. And as the book goes on, the spiders, they grow concerned over their missing sibling, and one by one they follow, and one by one meet some very strange ends. There's a nice element of suspense with the spiders. Now, this is a book meant for kids. I'd say probably kids between the ages of 8 and 10. Maybe 11, but definitely 8 through 10. And this would be a good book to read aloud. Just to read the names aloud alone would be adorable and fun. Might even help them get over any fear of spiders, or make their fear of spiders worse. I can't say if I would have liked this book if I were in the targeted age range back when this was written. I probably either would have thought it was silly or loved it because it was silly. I have a weird taste in literature, and I was also at the age of 10, I was reading well above my reading level. It's not bragging, it's just the way it was. But yeah, if you're looking for a quick read and you want to share it with your kids, look this one up. It's a lot of fun. Alright. And now we come to part 2. Happy Halloween again. Life and Limb by Jennifer Roberson. This is probably one of the newest books that I have read this year. Yeah, published 2019, so this is definitely the newest book that I have read this year. It is book 1 of a series that is going to be called Blood and Bone. Not to be confused with any other series of the same name. It is an interesting read. I got this particular book for my birthday. You know, Mom had a little book catalog out, and out of habit I just kind of circle and star books that sounded interesting, and she got this one and got it for me. And yeah, it was an interesting read. Our main characters are Gabe, the leather-clad, motorcycle-driving, gun-toting badass, and Remy, the stereotypical Texas cowboy, wears denim and a Stetson, drives a truck, and is a knife-wielding badass. She's also got some really weird one-liners. This was also one of the first books written in the first person that I had read in a long, long while, and it was a little weird. Different sort of first person than what I got in Wuthering Heights. Naturally, because especially with the language, modern language versus 19th century language. It is urban fantasy, and it's one of those guilty pleasure sort of stories that I seem to have. It's sort of almost apocalyptic. You've got heavenly and demonic wars raging on Earth, and the humans get caught in the middle and have to do the fighting basically to stay alive. You know, like The Prophecy and that weird Legion movie that Paul Bettany was in. And of course, Supernatural. Like I said, guilty pleasures. But don't be mistaken. This, just because I mentioned Supernatural, this is not Supernatural. For one thing, there are way too many pop culture references in here, including one Supernatural reference. And that was all done on purpose. The author wanted to write something with a lot of cultural references, and she did it. In some areas it was a little overdone. But there was one moment where she could have had a Supernatural 1-2 punch double whammy reference that would have got a major chuckle. Because at one point, I think Gabe drops the line of grip you tight and raise you from perdition. She missed a golden opportunity to have one of the other characters, either Granddaddy or Remy, kind of look at him and go, I don't understand that reference. If you know Supernatural, you'll get that reference. Yeah, I'd say about half of this novel is world building and exposition. In fact, Granddaddy, who's sort of the man named Jubal Tanner, explains it at one point that he is about to go into a major exposition dump, and he does. Basically explaining to these young men that they are made of heavenly stuff, and while they're not blood brothers, they are sort of spiritual brothers. And they've been training since they were kids to fight this heavenly war on Earth against demons and monsters. And something that is still tricky to kind of wrap your head around, that things that were not real are now about to be real. In fact, the cliffhanger in this book is quite an interesting cliffhanger. I can't wait to see where she takes it. And again, it does take a little while to actually start into actual plot. That also doesn't help that Gabe is having a hard time wrapping his head around what he is and what he's supposed to be doing, while Remy is mostly okay with it. They butt heads, they mostly get along. There are some other celestial beings. There is a Celtic goddess, an African Orisha who sings volcanoes awake, a Chinese goddess of mercy, a Nephilim, a Gregory, and plenty of demons, and, like I said, an unexpected being at the very end. If I remember correctly, this is the first urban fantasy that Jennifer Roberson has written. I think she's written mostly, I guess, normal fantasy. I'm not sure. I hadn't heard of her. I had, like I said, I just kind of circled it and thought it sounded interesting. And it is. It's not perfect. It is slow to start. It is a lot of world building and explanations. And again, it doesn't help that our narrator is drunk half the time and trying to wrap his head around what's going on. I have a lot of pages marked in here. Why do I have these pages marked? Well, mostly because of some interesting one-liners or references. Let's see. This is a reaction from Remy in chapter 2, right at the very beginning, after Granddaddy tells them both basically what they are. Then he cleared his throat and said in a tone surprisingly casual under the circumstances, "Lick that calf again?" Stereotypical cowboy. And here's one page that has a Star Trek and the Supernatural reference. What else did I mark? Oh, here's another good one. after Gabe basically telling their version of Q that he found the angelic beings that he's met already were hot. And Remy responds, "Well, I've only seen 2 of the 3 ladies, but I'll agree with you on those counts. Yep, pretty as 12 acres of pregnant red hogs." I think Sam and Dee would wish they could do some of the things that Remy and Gabe could do in here. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next for Remy and Gabe in book 2. Don't know when that's coming out, but I'll definitely get it when it does. So I am curious. She set up her world, she set up her characters, and now I've got to find out how the characters she introduced at the end is going to play into the actual story. Yeah. So that's 2 books for Halloween. 1 for kids and 1 for big kids. Feel free to check them out if you're curious. Didn't want to go into too many spoilers for either one. Both books are worth checking out. Especially if you love Gregory Maguire and you're a bit of a completionist. And if you want to get into something new, or something different, or if you're an urban fantasy fan, it's worth checking out. It's also a pretty easy, quick read. Right. Don't really have any plans for November, but I'm sure I'll come up with something. Probably something Phantom-esque. Well, have a happy Halloween. Take care. Bye-bye.